Hello, I'm Stephanie Luon. Welcome to my podcast, Surface Time, Confessions of a Diving Junkie. In this episode, you will get the insight to the 5 questions that I ask all my guests. Today, you will hear from Nico de Rouge, professional photographer and PADI instructor. Out of your non-diving gears, like the one you don't take on the water, what are the top 3 items that you always pack for a diving trip?
Non-diving gear, my camera, not for underwater, but for surface photography or whatever. A notebook to write in. Yeah, the third thing, my headphones for sure. Headphones, notebook, and camera. So I can listen to music if I need to write anything, thoughts or diary, and take photos.
The next question, what are the 3 top tips that you would give on a safe diving practice?
Never stop breathing. One point with PADI, never stop breathing, because that's still one question that I get from a lot of beginners. Other tips for safe practice, always keep on checking the condition, even when you're diving, because conditions can change quite fast. And it's not necessarily to call off the dive, but just to never be caught off guard by changing conditions. Another thing is be sure that you want to dive that day. Be sure that you're in the right mindset and physical conditions to go and dive. And I think it's especially important as an instructor and a dive master, especially if you're diving day in, day out, 3, 4, 5 times a day. There are moments when you're going to have to admit that you should pass that dive and maybe ask a colleague to take the divers, because we're not machines, and some days maybe you don't feel 100%.
That's a very good point, because people tend to look at dive master and the instructors, and they have this preconceptions about them being the Superman and Superwoman.
Yeah. It's true. You've probably been in that situation before. Like we get really tired.
I think that's one thing people forget, because we're all human and we also get tired. We carry more gears on us. We may have more water confidence, but it's got nothing to do with the physical condition, because the body does get tired, and then we may not be in the right frame of mind as well. I think to be able to call off a dive and say that I'm not going to do this one because I'm not up for it, that's really important for any divers.
Yeah.
The next question could be a challenging one, but we'll see. What is your greatest fear?
I think it's loneliness. Boom, it got really deep. Spiders. No, I think it's loneliness, because I'm not really afraid of any stereotypical things like spiders, altitude, snakes, but I'm more afraid of the lack of connection, or the lack of close connection that I feel, especially in very large cities, and like Shanghai, where we all live very close to each other, but we don't even know the names of our neighbors. That's actually one positive thing during this whole COVID lockdown, is that I actually get to know my neighbors and hang out with them, and they're pretty cool people.
That's really nice to know, because then it really helps you to get through the lockdown, isn't it? Because it effectively cuts you off from the lots of connections that you're familiar with.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And it really helps, at least in my case, it really helps me to have some real connections around me, because the only thing that we see now is what's going on social media. It's always pretty toxic. It's a great way to keep in touch with people back home, but it's also a horrible way to keep in touch with the world in general, and see a lot of toxic content. So it's refreshing to have people around to chat with.
The next question I have for you, what is your greatest extravagance?
I'm going to sound very boring. I'm really not extravagant at all, I'm afraid. Extravagance in terms of like money spending. My latest extravagance was buying a round trip flight back to Europe for this summer after 3 years of being far away from the people I love. So I spent, I think it was like 4,000 euros or something to get a round trip. In general, I don't really buy or show crazy things. I'm more interested in experiencing interesting things or learning interesting things. So my next big, say, extravaganza, is that the word?
Extravagance or extravaganza, however you want to interpret it.
Extravaganza.
So what's your next big
the next
extravaganza?
It was supposed to be this month, actually, but because of lockdown, I had to cancel. I was going to go to Hainan, which is an island south of China. I signed up to go there and learn how to kite surf, but also how to skydive. And that would have been extravagant in the spending, but also in the sensations. I've skydived tandem before, but I want to learn how to skydive solo. So I guess this will be for next year.
That is an extravagance to me.
Aha! I'm fun. Oh yeah, that's the next thing I want to learn. I can't ocean dive, so I have to skydive.
So next question for you is what do you most value in your friends?
It might sound a little bit cliche: kindness, compassion, empathy, which to me are all interlinked. For me, that's the most important skill to anyone, is to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So that's one. And intelligence. I think these two things are necessary in friends, at least for me. And I'm looking for people who are kind and smart.
And they stimulate you.
Yeah, exactly. In general, I feel like if you're kind and smart, you can have a lot of issues and a lot of problems, of course, but at least you can understand other people. You can stimulate other people. And to me, that's the basis of a beautiful friendship.
That's very nice. I like that. Thank you.
You have just been listening to Surface Time, Confessions of a Diving Junkie. Surface Time is executively produced by Noetic Production and music by Dress Studio. If you have enjoyed our Surface Time chat, please show us some love and subscribe. And if you would like to share your stories on Surface Time, we would love to hear from you. Please email us to faith@surfacetimechat.com.